Hi, welcome to Living Your Limitless Life. I'm Kayleigh Kennedy, business and mindset coach, mom, and your no BS guide to breaking through the stories holding you back. This podcast is your space to get real, get inspired, and get moving. Each week, I'll share the mindset shifts, strategies, and stories that have helped me and my clients build lives and businesses that feel as good as they look. If you're ready to stop playing small and start living big, you're in the right place. Let's go. Hello, and welcome back to Living Your Limitless Life. I'm Kayleigh Kennedy, and today I'm going to talk to you about something that I speak to clients about all the time, and it is the idea of perfectionism. You'll know this podcast is for you if you've ever said, I can't do that yet because I can't launch that yet because I'm not ready yet. If you have ever felt like if something is not perfect, it is a personal reflection of yourself. If you've ever thought that I have to do this perfectly to be successful, or I have to do this perfectly to be worthy, or if you feel like your worth comes from doing things perfectly. What is your definition of perfect? You can strive for perfection, but I truly don't believe that there is perfection because there's so many different opinions and perceptions of things that to me, I could look at something and that thing could be perfect and beautiful and flawless. And another person could look at it and see all the flaws or not relate to it. The idea of perfect is so subjective that when we start to allow perfectionism to drive our decisions or how we show up, that is purely a reflection of self. Perfectionism often comes from fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being seen as enough, fear of not feeling enough. So it's not the thing that is striving for perfection. It's actually your subconscious mind striving to fulfill that ideal of perfection that you have set up for yourself subconsciously. This is all going on in your subconscious mind, so you're likely not even aware of it. There is a real importance to differentiate healthy striving from destructive perfectionism. Now, I do believe in proofreading. I do believe in being thorough and putting my best work out there. And yes, I've put things out there with typos. And yes, I've put things out there with mistakes or information that I believe to my core. And then later on down the road, I actually learned something new. And usually that's through self-discovery. So instead of striving for perfection, I strive for alignment. And I always ask, am I doing the best that I can do with what I currently have? We don't want to be sloppy. And this is where that difference between healthy striving and destructive perfectionism come in is you don't want to be sloppy and you don't want to be seen as sloppy. So you decide then to not be seen at all because that idea of perfectionism. There's something that I say to my clients, and I've said it for years, and it is imperfect action is better than no action at all. But I think it's really important to start to understand what is the idea you're holding that is actually stopping you from taking action. And how does that feel like it's reflected on yourself? I have worked with a lot of people who are course creators, content creators, and they're putting things out there, or they have the idea to put things out there, and then they're constantly stopped because it has to be perfect, or what if it doesn't hit? What if it doesn't land? Well, here's the thing. You're not going to know if it is going to land until you launch it. A lot of the time, we create stories of what results we think we're going to get, but we don't actually know because we don't actually do the thing. We don't actually try. We don't actually show up. So imperfect action is 100% better than no action at all, because what imperfect action and continuously just showing up in action will do is you will then get the feedback from other people, not just the stories in your head, but actual people, and you'll be able to then start to improve it because you're not you're not going to be dealing with the same person over and over. You're going to be dealing with other people's perception. And everything that you're creating and all of the stories that you're creating are from your perception. So just doing it and receiving the feedback and being very objective with that feedback is how you're going to learn and how you're going to improve and how you're going to grow in yourself and in whatever it is that you're delivering, whatever it is that you're I guess procrastinating on because you're waiting for perfection or you're waiting for it to be something before you start to launch it. How you're going to create something is by getting that feedback, and you'll actually learn what people want and what people need. The other thing that I see in perfectionism is people overworking or over delivering to prove their own value. Perfectionism can actually come from lacking of your own self-worth. I used to overthink everything and I'd ask for everyone's opinion. I didn't really trust myself. And it wasn't the work that changed and what I put out that changed. It was me working on my own value and my own self-worth that changed. And then I became more confident to put things out there and wasn't worried so much about perceived judgments. Nobody's really actually thinking of you. That's why it's a perceived judgment. We think that everyone's going to judge us, or we think, oh, what is this person going to say? But you really don't care when it comes down to it. So you just keep building up your own self-worth and your own self-value so that you don't feel like everything needs to be perfect before you launch it. This is how this shows up in leadership. Have you ever thought to yourself, well, I'll just do it because nobody's going to do it as well as me? Or I'll just do it because it's going to take more work to tell them exactly how I want this done. And then what happens is you overwork, burnout. And what you're actually doing is you're disempowering your team. Even if someone doesn't do it as well as you or the same way as you, is it still getting the message across? Is the work still getting done? One question that I'll often ask the leaders that I'm coaching is, does it actually matter? As long as it's done within the company's standards and values, why does it have to be done this one way? So yes, creating standards in your organization is super important, but also noticing where you feel like you're the only person who's meeting those standards. That's a whole other conversation. But these are some reflection questions or things to reflect on to really notice where perfectionism is showing up in your leadership. There's costs to perfectionism. The emotional costs are stress, burnout, anxiety, shame. In business, it can be slowing your own growth or stifling innovation or not allowing your creativity to fly. Sometimes it looks like missing deadlines or deadlines that you've created for yourself. Or sometimes it looks like just sitting on an idea for years. I've seen that too. In teams, it can look like micromanaging, which nobody wants to be micromanaged. It can look at underutilizing the talent on your team, not empowering them to step into their own and to really allow their strengths to shine. And this can ultimately result in low team morale as well. It's progress over perfection because there is no perfection. So as long as you're constantly progressing and just asking yourself, how can I do this 1% better next time? What is something I can do to improve this? And you just look for one improvement at a time. That's growth. Taking action is so much more important than a flawless execution. When I do sales trainings and when I'm working with my clients on sales training and in sales capacities, I have them reflect on their lost sales calls and asking themselves, what can I do better next time? And the reason I get my clients to do this is because you are going to learn more when you reflect on the sales that you've lost, then learn more from the sales that you've won. Because if you win a sale, you're not going to ask yourself, well, what did I do wrong? Or what can I do better? Or how can I improve? You're just going to celebrate the sale. So the sales that you've lost could actually earn you way more money than the sales that you've won. when you start to reflect on that. I no longer believe that there's such thing as failure. I used to believe that there was, but now I look at it as there are no failures, there's only lessons. And I take the time and make the space to make sure I'm always learning those lessons. If I'm showing up, I'm doing air quotes here for those who are listening on audio, if I'm showing up perfectly, then I'm not looking for any room for improvement. And there's always room for improvement because there is no perfection. I'm not going to grow and get better if I'm constantly perfect, because there is no such thing. Embracing imperfection is such a beautiful learning curve. It's such a beautiful catalyst for growth. And when you start to reflect this way, you develop a deeper level of self-compassion, which then also helps you develop your self-worth, which then also helps you develop your, I call it my I don't give an F muscle, and then just show up in imperfect action. So it's like this ripple effect of actually being more visible, actually getting out there more, and actually receiving more results. One of the reasons, and I'd welcome you to go back, it's one of my first ever podcast episodes that I talk about celebrating small wins. I used to struggle at celebrating small wins or celebrating myself. Now it's one of my daily habits and daily tools that I use, and it also helps me show up in imperfect action. If I waited till I felt ready to launch this podcast, you wouldn't be listening to this episode right now. If I had to wait till I had the perfect script or the perfect idea or everything was perfect, I wouldn't have launched this podcast. I'm learning as I go. I would like to believe that this episode is better than 5 episodes ago. And I know that the episode that I launch at this time next year is going to be better than today's. I'm not waiting for perfection. I'm learning as I go. And guess what I'm also doing is I'm also growing as I go. So I want to leave you with some practical strategies for overcoming perfectionism. And one of them is looking at your own self-worth and self-value. And if you feel like you're lacking in that area, my favorite tool for increasing my self-worth is simple affirmations. Is just repeating, I am worthy, I am worthy, I am worthy. Like, it's so simple, and it is actually effective. And putting reminders around my space and my life to remind myself I'm worthy and to remind myself my value. The other thing is collecting evidence. So if you notice perfectionism showing up a lot in your leadership and you don't trust your team or you have a hard time delegating, start to collect evidence of when your team has shown up or how some of their wins, like start to really collect that evidence to develop that trust in them so that you can delegate more and you can empower them more. This actually works both ways because you can also create an evidence list for yourself of why you should trust yourself and what are the good things that have happened when I do show up. And you start collecting those wins and building up your self-confidence, because I also find that when you start to develop more self-confidence, then you are more willing to show up in imperfect action than waiting for the perfect moment. Throughout this episode, I've mentioned reflection prompts. Journaling is also one of my favorite strategies to really look at, to reflect so that I can continue to improve and learn those lessons. I always look for ways that I can show up imperfectly so that I can learn and that I can grow. Another beautiful affirmation that I will offer you today is simply, I am enough, even if I fail and even if my work isn't perfect. I am enough, even if I fail and even if my work isn't perfect. High achievers often use perfectionism as a shield against feeling unworthy. There's underlying beliefs in why this form of self-sabotage continues to show up. Know that you are good enough now. And know that the room for improvement is always going to be the biggest room. And get excited in that. Don't feel overwhelmed about it, because just look at how can I get 1% better every single day. Start to find one small area in your business. I would start in your business to practice imperfect action. Just one thing that you have been putting off. Is it being visible? Maybe it's launching a podcast like this one? Maybe it's something in content, maybe it's doing a workshop, and just tackle one thing at a time and use the reflection questions that I've shared throughout this episode to learn and grow from that and to continue to gather that feedback so you can continue to improve. Anything that you see as a failure is a lesson, and that's a perception shift. When you make that mindset shift, you'll have no choice but continue to get better and better and better. I hope you were able to get a lot from this episode. This is something that I know I will continue to speak of to my clients. It is a conversation topic that comes up over and over and over again, and I know it's not going away anytime soon. And I really want to help more people embrace this side of themselves because this is where beautiful aligned growth happens. I have a tool. It is linked in the show notes, and it is my morning and night routine. And I welcome you to download. It's a free tool. It's a free resource. Go through it. Start to reflect on areas where you could improve and remove perfectionism. That tool can really support you in so many different ways. I can link almost every episode back to that tool, to be perfectly honest. Also, I'm actually going to be launching a 3-day self-sabotage challenge later this year. So late December 2025. So if you are wanting more information on that, make sure you follow me on Instagram, connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe through my website to my email list, because that will be an amazing challenge to go through if you do find that you struggle with some perfectionism. So until next time, I'm Kayleigh Kennedy, and keep living your limitless life.
Thanks for tuning in to Living Your Limitless Life. If you loved this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. It would mean the world to me. Plus, it helps more people find my show and we can create a bigger impact together. Until next time, keep dreaming big, taking bold action, and remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. See you next time.